Anime cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Always stand out due to their creators' emphasis on dramatic and exciting moments rather than balanced gameplay. As a result, when anime cards transition into the trading card game, they typically undergo significant nerfs to fit competitive standards. However, some anime cards are so absurdly powerful or mechanically complicated that they remain forever locked behind the screen. So if you've watched my other video about unprintable cards, then you know the drill. Here are some other cards that I feel would be kinda unprintable. Starting off this list is Intervention of Fate. This card is used by Sartorius in Season 2 and Season 4 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime. This card has a simple but powerful effect. It says that when your opponent summons a monster, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to activate one normal spell card from your hand. This opens up a lot of possibilities. It's basically a spell hand trap. In the actual card game, we have Infinite Impermanence, Dominus Purge, and Dominus Impulse. In the anime, they have this. So basically, this card makes one of your normal spell card a quick effect spell card at the cost of discarding Intervention of Fate. And in actuality, it might be even a little bit better since you don't need to set the card on your field. And I'm talking about the normal spell card you're gonna use. In the anime, this card was used by Sartorius with his duel against the Prince Ojin. After Ojin summons Satellite Base, Sartorius discarded Intervention of Fate to activate Ace of Swords from his hand, which kinda led him to a zero-turn kill, one of the few zero-turn kills in the anime. In any case, I can see this card being used with a lot of different spell cards, cards that would benefit from being a quick effect card, such as Dark Ruler No More, Lightning Storm, Ultimate Slayer, and obviously some older cards too, such as Heavy Storm, Dark Hole, Soul Release, Change of Heart, and etc. This card really just powers up any normal spell card you have, which, depending what it is, can be a devastating blow to your opponent. Next up, we have Roll of Fate. This card is used by Joey Wheeler in the Duel Monsters anime. It really is a Joey card since it involves a dice roll. If ever printed, this card would probably be the best dice roll card ever made. The effect of the card says that you roll a 6-sided die and draw cards equal to the result, then remove an equal number of cards from the top of your deck. It's kinda similar to 6th Sense, which got banned pretty quickly in the TCG. However, this card is even better because it's a spell card, so you don't need to wait a turn to activate the effect. If you're talking about card advantage, this is either a +0 or a +5. Obviously, most people don't even care that you remove cards from the top of your deck since it creates so much advantage. Furthermore, if you build your deck around this card, it actually might be an advantage too. So yeah, they say that Joey cards are pretty bad, but this is up there when you're talking about broken cards. Moving on, we have the trap card Elegant Light level 4. This card is used by Howard X. Miller in episode 73 of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. The effect of the card says that when this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon one level 4 or lower monster from your deck. Elegant Light level 4 might seem harmless at first, but the sheer ease of activating its effect via common tactics, such as discarding, milling, or even generic card effects makes it extremely powerful. Although it is a when effect, so maybe it could miss timing. A card very similar to this would be Last Will, which can special summon a 1500 or less attack monster from your deck if you've sent a monster to the graveyard this turn, and that card got banned very early into the game, so following that logic, Elegant Light level 4 would probably be banned just as quickly. In the anime, Howard X used card destruction to send this card to the graveyard to activate its effect to summon Trap Slowser to be unaffected by continuous trap cards. In real life though, you'd probably summon a monster that makes you gain advantage or floodgates your opponent, such as Banisher of the Radiance, Jaugen, or any of the barrier statues. Speaking of preventing your opponent from doing stuff, this next card enables that, and if it was printed, I feel like it would be really annoying to deal with. The card Code Change is a card used by Jaden in his duel against Yugi. The card says, select one face-up card on the field whose effect involves a type of monster and declare a type. Until the end phase, the type mentioned in the selected card's text becomes the declared type. Now, maybe you can see where this is going. First of all, it would be the only card in the game that could change a card's text, and it would basically stop any kind of card that either searches or needs a specific type to work. For example, Reinforcement of the Army, well now it searches Spellcaster monsters. Bonfire, well now it searches Aqua monsters. Silent Mining, well you get the idea. And of course you can use it to your advantage to use certain cards that only work with specific types, and then change that specific type to the type you actually want. This quick play spell card is actually kinda versatile in its use, but like I said, it probably is annoying to deal with. Our next card has a pretty steep cost to be activated. The card Wonder Cloud was used by Adrian Gecko in his duel against the Chaz, and it's pretty crazy for decks that want cards to be banished. The card says, remove from play all cards you control and all cards in your hand. That's already pretty insane. Draw one card for each card your opponent controls, then remove from play all cards in your deck. If the first part wasn't enough, they had to add that. This turn, negate the effects of your spell, trap, and effect monsters that target remove from play cards. Essentially, you're supposed to be stuck with the cards you draw from your deck after you activated this card, but this card is perfect for any deck that wants your cards banished. If you activate this card, you're probably going to win the game. Imagine playing this card in a Grand Module deck. For a more modern example, right now we have the Malice deck, which could benefit from this card since they get to special summon themselves when they get banished. Although this card makes it impossible to target any of your banished cards. So you're a little bit more restricted, but still, you're gonna use this card for a lot of combos. For our next card, we have a card used in the duel between Jaden and Chaz during the Society of Light arc, and could potentially create a lot of shenanigans, and that card is Cemetery Change. This card says, pay 1000 life points, destroy all monsters on the field, then switch graveyards with your opponent. It is essentially a dark hole at the cost of 1000 life points. However, if your opponent has a deck that relies on the graveyard, then you might foil his plans. It also might actually be able to avoid any cards that trigger in the graveyard since you're switching them. Maybe then it actually triggers in your graveyard instead. In any case, you can see that this card will create a lot of ruling nightmares. And also if you're against that kind of player, then some of your cards might get stolen. In the anime, this card was used by Chaz after he was purged of the Society of Light's influence. And he was assuming that Jaden stole his cards, and he went ahead and changed the graveyards to get back his Ojamas. In any case, Cemetery Change is a card I can never see really being printed. The next card is kind of a power creep version of Exchange, and that card is Card Exchange, which simply says, exchange your entire hand with your opponent. This card was used in episode 72 of Duel Monsters. Loomis activated this card to exchange his hand with Umbra, to risk that hand and activate the card Chosen One of the worst special summoning card. But he succeeded and summoned Mask Beast Disc Radius, ignoring the summoning conditions. In any case, why this card is powerful is because it has basically no requirement for it to be an equal amount of cards being exchanged. So basically, you can use your entire hand to give a single card, or maybe even 0 cards to your opponent. And the way that could be used is that you use your entire hand and then exchange at least 1 card with your opponent, so your opponent is stuck with 1 card and you basically get a fresh hand. There's not a lot of cards in the game that exchanges cards, and I think it's probably because it would create a lot of problems in the end. So once again, I think this card could not be printed. Alright, so the next few cards are actually all used by a single character, and they all have pretty insane effects, and this character is Noah from the Season 3 filler arc in Duel Monsters. Now to start us off, we have Ice Age Panic. This spell card says that you can only activate it while you control no monsters, and then it says special summon 1 earth monster from your deck. That's it, that's the only effect it has. This spell card is kind of like a hero lives, without any cost, and you have no restriction on the level. It's basically a generic support card for any archetype that mainly uses earth monster, and it can essentially help search for a specific combo piece in deck. In the anime though, this was used to summon Last Tusk Mammoth, after he activated the next card I will talk about. But yeah, for such a powerful card, why would you use it to summon a vanilla monster? One that is also like level 3. There's no restriction on the level, so you can probably summon a level 8 monster if you wanted to. Alright, so the next card I wanted to talk about was Deepest Impact, a spell card that is basically a power creep version of Dark Hole. It says, destroy all monsters on the field and have both players' life points. I guess Dark Hole wasn't powerful enough for Noah, so he has a card that for some reason just has the life points of both players. What's funny is that it doesn't really need to destroy all monsters on the field to activate the second effect. It can just do it, since the conjunction is and not something like and if you do. So basically it doesn't need to accomplish the first effect to apply the second one. So even if you don't destroy all monsters on the field, you can still have both players' life points. And I'm pretty sure you'd only activate this if you're in a very advantaged position. I guess it is unsearchable, but it is still a card that for free can just have the life points of your opponent. Another card that's basically another power crab version of another card is Giant Flood. This card says that you can only activate during your main phase 1, and then send all monsters on the field from both players' hands to the graveyard. And this is basically a power crab version of Royal Tribute. Royal Tribute needs Necro Valley to be activated, but this card needs none of that. Now the question is, the text on this card says that it sends cards from your hand to the graveyard. Does this count as discarding a card? And does this trigger effects of cards that trigger when they're discarded? Let me know in the comments, I'm actually not sure about that. The final card in Noah's Arsenal is a card that is not that very much powerful, but mechanically would be complicated to actually implement. So the card is Shinato's Arc. In the TCG, this card is a ritual spell to summon Shinato, King of the Higher Plane, but in the anime it's a completely different card. First of all, it is a continuous spell card instead of a ritual spell card. And in the anime, the card has this effect. Every monster sent to the graveyard is trapped in the Arc. Already you can see why this card would be difficult to implement. During the battle phase of your opponent, you can summon monsters within the Arc in defense position up to the number of monsters your opponent has on the field in attack position. You can destroy all monsters within the Arc to gain 500 life points for each monster destroyed. When this card is removed from the field, you can special summon one Shinato, King of the Higher Plane from your hand. This card, if it ever was printed in the TCG, would need to be printed differently, and also with a different card name since Shinato's Arc already exists. A way to do this would probably be to either banish those monsters or put them in the spell and trap zones to then special summon them back onto the monster zones. Although it also includes your opponent's monsters, they also get trapped inside the Arc. So yeah, they would need to figure that out. In the anime, this card was actually Noah's deck master during his duel against Kaiba, and it really gave him some trouble because Kaiba lost. Since it then special summoned Shinato, King of a Higher Plane, which became Noah's new deck master. And when Noah summoned Shinato, they were under the effect of last turn. With Blue Eyes White Dragon being on the field, it was a cinch for Noah, who could easily defeat the Blue Eyes with his Shinato. Alright, I'm gonna wrap it up for this video. If you have any other cards that I failed to mention, feel free to leave them in the comments. Or better yet, maybe actually mention them in another video, so give them a watch. As always, thanks for watching and see you next time.